Welcome to the Co-Optimus Dark Souls Co-Op FAQ. The goal of this guide is to answer all of your co-op questions, cover the cooperative aspects of the gameplay, while briefly touching on some of the other online interactions. This guide is relatively spoiler-free, but it will mention a handful of basic gameplay items. Dark Souls is a very deep, very complicated, and very non-traditional game with multiple methods of player interaction. So let's get to it.
What kind of co-op does the game support?
3 players can play cooperatively in one world. You must be online to play co-op with other players, as there is no local co-op or system link. If you do not have an internet connection, you can occasionally summon NPC characters to aid you in battle.
Is the co-op similar to that of Demon Souls?
Many of the basic gameplay elements have carried over from Demon Souls, but there have been significant changes. The main change being with the server side of things, making it incredibly difficult to meet up with your friends the way you would in Demon Souls. So this makes it very hard to get a dedicated group together, and you're better off relying on summoning random people into your game through their summon signs.
What are the character forms?
Players have 2 different bodily states, or forms. You can play in either human or hollow form. It's easy to see your current state, as there are visual cues on your HUD, or you can zoom the camera in for a close-up on your character's face. If you look human, you're in human form. If you look like a corpse, you're in hollow form. Everyone begins the game as a hollow.
How do I join a co-op game?
To be summoned by other players, you can either be in human or hollow form. You must obtain the white sign soapstone from an NPC. This is a permanent item that you can use as many times as you wish, but you can only have one sign down at a time. Once you have this item, you can leave your mark in most locations around the game world. After you had laid your mark, it is up to another player to summon you. Place your mark in a high traffic area for the best chance to be summoned quickly. When you are summoned into another player's world, you appear as a phantom. You can be summoned in an area even if you have already defeated the boss in your own game.
How do I summon players?
There are 2 ways to directly play a cooperative session in Dark Souls. Human players can host a session by summoning other players. Hollow and human players can be summoned into other players' games as clients. Clients will appear in hosts' games as iridescent phantoms. You can summon other players anywhere you see a summon sign. You must be in an area where the boss is still alive, and you cannot summon in transitional or hub areas.
How does a summoned player heal themselves?
In solo play, players heal themselves using an Estus flask, which is Dark Souls' main healing item. In co-op play, the summoned player does not have access to their Estus flasks. The client must rely on the host player for healing. Whenever a host player uses a flask, both summoned players are automatically healed. If a summoned player has access to other healing items such as miracles and magic rings, they can use them at will.
How does a summoned player interact with the host's world?
The main goal of any co-op session is to defeat the area boss. If the boss is defeated, the summoned players are returned to their own world with a hefty soul reward, as well as a valuable piece of humanity. The boss will have been defeated only in the host player world. Summoned players will still have to vanquish the creature in their own respective worlds, if they have not yet done so. If you are hosting the game, the summoned players simply vanish from your world when the boss dies.
After a co-op session is over, what items, souls, and quest progress carry over to the summoned player's game?
Summoned players are returned to their own worlds with all of the souls, items, and humanity they earned in the session. If they were dismissed or the boss was defeated, they will appear at the exact location in their own world they were in when they were summoned. If they die in a host world, they still keep all of their souls, items, and humanity, but they are returned to the last bonfire they rested at in their own world.
How does a co-op session end?
A co-op session ends if the host dismisses the client with a black separation crystal. The client can return to their own world using the same item. A co-op session ends for all players involved if the host player is killed. The host player will suffer the same death penalties as when playing a solo game. Summoned players will be returned to their own worlds with all of the souls they have earned. If a summoned player dies, they will return to the last bonfire they rested at in their own world. They get to keep the souls they have earned, as well as any items they may have received from the host.
What is the bonfire, and how does my bonfire affect other players?
The bonfire is the checkpoint system of Dark Souls. They are located throughout the land, and you will use it to level up, select magic, become human, and more. You can offer humanity to kindle your own bonfire, which enables you to carry extra Estus flasks. When you do this, other players using that bonfire will receive an extra Estus flask as well. Other players will experience this as a glowing mist that suddenly appears over their heads, and then is absorbed by their body. This happens to other nearby players sharing the network, so there's no summoning required.
Are there bloodstains, apparitions, and messages, as there were in Demon Souls?
All three of these elements make a return in Dark Souls. You can touch a bloodstain to see how another player died. You'll see ghostly apparitions of other players in different worlds. These spirits appear as hollows out in the world, but they look human when next to bonfires. You'll be able to buy an item that allows you to leave messages for other players using specific phrases. The same item will allow you to rate other players' messages.